Hello, Zalto Live listeners. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that more teachings from Zen monk Claude AnShin Thomas are available in his two books, At Hell's Gate, A Soldier's Journey from War to Peace, and Bringing Meditation to Life, 108 Teachings on the Path of Zen Practice. Both are available wherever books are sold, and all proceeds go to the Zalto Foundation, dedicated to promoting nonviolence, awareness, and positive change.
Hello and welcome to Zalto Live, the podcast featuring Zen Buddhist Monk Claude AnShin Thomas, who will share with you his life experiences that includes not only military combat, personal violence, and addiction, but also healing, transformation, and the ongoing joy of everyday life. Please enjoy listening.
During this period of time, I lived in England and Iran. I lived in Iran for 4.5 years. I speak several different languages. Farsi, which is the language of Iran, I spoke fluently. In the other languages, I'm communicative. I wouldn't say I'm fluent. I did live homeless for 2 years. I lived in an abandoned car on the streets of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania from 1970 to 72, in that time frame. I went into a drug and alcohol treatment center at the end of May 1983, the 28th of May 1983. And I stopped drinking alcohol and taking other drugs, illegal and prescribed, on that date, and have remained abstinent since. The process of clearing up from this long period of run on all sorts of drugs, to include alcohol, the process of waking up took on a lot of different shapes. But that led me to Buddhist practice. I lived and studied in a monastery in France for 3.5 years. I left there. I didn't take ordination there. I left there in 1993. See, I was there from 90 to 93. I left there in 93, returned back to the States. I then, not too long after that, was introduced to the person who ordained me in this lineage. Their meditation center was located in Yonkers, New York. And at the time I was living in Concord, Massachusetts. I was invited to become ordained in that lineage, and I sort of hesitantly accepted. I was ordained in Poland, and then I walked from Poland to Vietnam. I've taken vows of mendicancy, which means I live from the generosity of the people who I come in contact with. I'm not permitted to work gainfully. I'm not permitted to have the trappings of contemporary society, like life insurance or health insurance, those sorts of things. I'm not permitted to own, and I'm not permitted to marry. So I've lived as an ordained monastic now for in excess of 25 years. I've lived as an ordained monastic since 1994. I can only say that my commitment to Buddhist practice and the disciplines of this particular form of Buddhist practice, Japanese Zen, has helped me to save my life. I'm active in working with other combat soldiers who are having a difficult time sort of finding their place. I offer them the tools that were given to me. They don't have to believe in anything. I don't care what they think, believe, or say. It's just if they do some basic things, and if they will take the tools that I give them and embrace those tools, then when they come into a difficult time, when they come in face to face with their unpeacefulness, they'll have the tools to support them to discover how to live at peace with this unpeacefulness, because the real cost of war never goes away. And I look at my life as the war before the war, and the war after the war. I could really talk for the whole hour, but I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking just now, and I would really appreciate your questions. Now, when you have questions, what I would like you to do is come closer to the computer so that I can see you, because those are sitting in the back. They look about 2 inches tall on the screen. So if you would help me out with that, I would be most appreciative. So I'm open for your questions. There are some online too. If you have questions online, you can just let me know that you would like to ask a question, and we can, or Camilo can give you access.
Yeah.
Could you come forward? So,
where are you? Wave your hand. There you are.
Great, you're the first. You're courageous. Awesome.
yes.
So I've learned before, like saying there are monks are vegetarian, but there are monks are allowed to eat meat. I'm wondering like the differences between them and whether if it's true or not. Yeah.
Thank you.
And your question is what?
She said there's monks who eat vegetarian and monks who eat meat, and she's learning both ways, and she's wondering what is true.
Actually, both are correct. I live a life that's really rooted in the essential precepts that were passed on to me. The first, there are 3 basic precepts in Buddhist practice. One is don't kill, 2 is don't steal, and the other is don't lie. Now, embracing the precept of not killing, I choose not to support institutions of killing, and so therefore I do not eat any meat, fish, or poultry. I know I've visited a number of monastic communities around the world, and I do know that there are clever ways which people sort of dance around this commitment. I'm not here to debate that. I'm not here to pass any sort of judgment on that. I simply embrace the precepts in a way that makes sense to me. So I don't eat meat, fish, or poultry. I don't use dairy products. If I'm out on the street, or if I'm walking across, if I'm doing a long pilgrimage, people offer me meat, I accept that. I just don't eat it. I pass it on to somebody who does.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know what? Maybe I'll put this big old chair up here.
Okay.
So it's like,
Someone can sit.
oh my God, it's so heavy. This is all SVA, brand new stuff. They just rehabbed the entire floor
Oh, wow.
over the summer, and not to anyone's satisfaction. We have one bathroom now for everyone.
Oh, wow.
Which is okay, but you know, there's closed stalls, but there's like 3 operative stalls. So if you need to use the facility during break, you have to wait online. It's just really, I don't know who designed this, but anyway, thank you for allowing me to vent a little bit. Yeah.
You're rambling on. You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
So I wanted to ask, like, how do you, like, the Buddhist teachings and how do you navigate them, like, through difficult emotions and, like, difficult times in life?
Did I hear correctly? You are curious how in Buddhist practice you relate to difficult feelings and also difficult situations? Okay.
I would say sometimes better than others. Now, I will say that the notion of difficult is an idea, and every member in that classroom may experience the reality of difficult differently. What I understand is when I encounter something that is a challenge for me in some way, so if I'm conditioned to respond to something, to some set of circumstances in a way that's not helpful or productive, then I have at my access the most incredibly powerful tool available. and it's available to us all. And it's free. It's our breath. When I start to become agitated, or my mind starts to race, or I have feelings of powerlessness or sadness or anger, and I don't quite know what to do with them, I grab a hold of those feelings through my breath, and I become more steady with them. And so I breathe in the tension, and so what I do is I breathe in, and then I breathe that attention right out of my body. And so that active connection with the breath is incredibly supportive to me. And those who really engage in this practice have expressed the same to me. Now, that being said, there are also, sometimes I breathe and walk. Sometimes I grab a hold of that breath while I'm walking. I grab a hold of that breath and maybe I vacuum the floor. And maybe I grab a hold of that breath and I wash the dishes. Maybe I grab a hold of that breath and I call Camillo. And I talk with people. So it is the breath in relationship with an active form of meditation practice. Now, that being said, I do know people who are confronted with emotional and psychological states that they need additional help with. And so I fully encourage that. And what I also pass on to them is, if you really embrace this practice of breath awareness in relation with the additional support that you get, it can help you to benefit from that support more completely.
We actually did a session in class a couple of weeks ago, where we had a group meditation, and I think it went okay, but many of the students remarked how difficult it was.
Yes.
How we're distracted both mentally and physically, and how I had a difficult time bringing it back to the breath. You have any advice for them?
Just keep practicing. So the first monastery I lived and studied at, I was in France. And I can confide in you that when I eliminated a lot of the sort of contemporary distractions from my life, and I invited more stillness into my life, my mind was explosive. My mind would be flying 10,000 thoughts a nanosecond. I was distracted, and I was easily distracted. But what would happen is I'd sit down, I'd start to concentrate on my breath, and suddenly I'd realize that I was distracted. That's a critical moment. The moment I'm aware that I'm distracted, I just would come back to my breath. So every time I became aware that I was distracted, I just kept coming back again and again to my breath. I just kept doing that until one day I just realized that I wasn't distracted anymore. The thoughts, I would still be busy with thoughts and feelings and emotions, but I was still very actively connected with my breath. Also, in those early days, if it was challenging for me to sit, I would then walk. But when I would walk in a very disciplined way. I wouldn't just walk like you do down the streets of the city. What I would do is I would walk as I instruct here in the meditation hall. I would breathe in with one step, and I would breathe out with one step. Very slow. Breathe in with one step and breathe out with one step. Since 1998, Kenshin and I have walked about 45,000 miles all over the world. Now, when we walk, we don't walk that slow. We walk a pretty brisk pace, but we still do that steps and breath, steps and breath, steps and breath. So, you might take 3 or 4 steps with an in-breath, 3 or 4 steps with an out-breath. But it's maintaining that connection with the breath. Because if I'm not connected with the breath, then I'm not here in this moment. I'm like lost in an imaginary world created by thoughts, feelings, and perceptions.
I also want to say what helped me with Buddhist practice is in this matter of having difficulties, difficult feelings, is that I finally understood it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to have difficult feelings and thoughts. Because before I met Buddhist practice, I was judging myself harshly. I always thought I need to be different, I need to have different thoughts, I need to have different feelings. So this categorizing of difficult came from a place of judging. And in Buddhist practice, I was given a term which was, there is suffering. And just knowing that was such a relief, that there was a name for what I was doing, and that I'm not abnormal. It is a condition of life. And it followed that even so there is suffering, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to suffer, but I have to accept that things are as they are. In some conditions, I'm totally powerless over. Things not working out the way I want. Something I have, I lose. There's death, sickness. So it really just tremendously helped me to accept that I'm not wrong, I'm not bad, but there is suffering, and often it is, the first thought helps me, it is okay to be uncomfortable. I'm not doing something wrong. It's just okay to be uncomfortable.
Also, in this monastery, I was given a tool to support me when sitting, to help me stay connected to the breath, and that was counting. So I would breathe in, count to 1. I would breathe in, count to 1, breathe out. I breathe in, count to 2, breathe out. I breathe in, count to 3, breathe out. And when I would become distracted, I would then have to start over again. But that counting in relation with the breath was also very supportive to me in helping me maintain some connection or bringing me back into connection. The monastery was in France, so I was living and studying there, and I was also learning the language. So giving this technique helped me to learn how to count in French. So next question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you saying then that meditation goes further and goes beyond sitting on the cushion?
Absolutely.
Yes. So it's almost like living a meditation.
Meditation and daily life are not two things.
Uh-huh.
That's a misconception. The meditation only takes place in repose on a cushion in some sort of secluded place. Well, actually, I can confide in you that I've done a number of, part of my practice manifests itself in doing meditation retreats, homeless meditation retreats. So we actually live out on the streets of various cities around the world, and we live without money. We have to beg for everything. We sleep outside. We don't take beds away from people who really do need them. And that becomes our practice. We're usually outside 5 days, 6 nights. I've done 2 such retreats in Manhattan. So we get a central place where that becomes our temple or our meditation hall, and that would be outside. So one time it was in Central Park, and another time it was in Grand Central Station. And then we find a place, we sleep outside. And when we're sitting outside, you're sitting with everything you're sitting at Grand Central Station. You get people coming and going, and police sirens and ambulance sirens, and you get talking and all this movement, and still you can cultivate this stillness in the midst of all of that. And the breath is a tool to support us. If we understand that meditation isn't about not having thoughts, meditation isn't about not having feelings. Meditation is learning how to be present with all that comes into our existence, not rejecting nor allowing that to control us. There's a person in the front with an Under Armour t-shirt, Under Armour sweatshirt.
With the what?
Yeah, I thought you might. Oh no, that's not Under Armour. That's the devil. Oh,
it's a frowny.
Yeah. So I thought you might have a question.
I was actually going to ask about the meditation. I was taking notes on it because I've been trying to do it, but I was having a problem. That's like I kept on getting distracted in things. So when he said that's like not about not having thoughts, but more about like acknowledging it, that was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to ask, what like do you gain from meditation from others?
Did you hear her okay?
Almost. Like the last part, did you say, did you gain anything?
Yeah, what do you gain from meditation the most?
Yeah, the most.
Nothing. I'm serious. I'm serious. If we approach meditation looking to get something from it, it will fail us. Because then we're attempting to get meditation to conform to all of our ideas about what it's supposed to be, and we're not giving meditation an opportunity to reveal itself to us. Meditation isn't something that can be taught. Meditation is something to be experienced, and it's revealed to us through a disciplined practice where we sit, connect with our breath, we walk, we connect with our breath. Work and meditation are not two things. It's important to have some basic instructions and training in this process, but it's incredibly important to understand that meditation and daily life are not two things, and there is nothing to be accomplished or nothing to be achieved. Just this contact with the breath, realizing that I'm of the nature to become distracted. And then when I realize I'm distracted, that is a positive moment. And I can simply return to my breath. I do that as often as I need to do it.
I also want to mention, this is an interesting point because Camilo said this. This sounds like it's more than sitting. Anshin had the privilege to publish a book that is called Bringing Meditation to Life. So for me, it covers both things. One is we are actively bringing meditation practices into our daily life, and also we're bringing it alive, which means we live it out loud. And, we do formal practice where it is about eating meditation, working meditation, the meditation of speaking and listening. It's about silence. It's about asking questions, sharing. So that really is the most important for us. It needs to be alive in our daily life, and only then it can support us, and it all anchors initially in that breath. Bringing that breath to you sitting in class, writing your homework, brushing your teeth, going out for a coffee. It all needs to be there.
Can I ask you, let me play devil's advocate a little bit here.
No, really?
I'm sure there's some benefit in doing it, because why else would I want to sit down? Because, we're all very hyperactive here, and, we have to worry about papers coming in and getting, so there's all sorts of anxiety and stress in our lives as students and faculty members. So can I expect to benefit in some way from engaging in this very difficult practice?
What I would say, my response to that, Camilla, would be that if you're sitting to relieve anxiety, you will be disappointed. Because again, you're attempting to force this practice to give you a result that you may not get. But what a disciplined practice can help us with is not getting rid of anxiety, but learning to live at peace with with what we call unpeacefulness, the unsettledness of anxiety, the unsettledness of stress, the unsettledness of the demands that fall on our life. We can be more steady in the midst of all of that. Are there some benefits? Yes, there are benefits to an active meditation practice. However, I would never name them because I don't want you chasing after the benefits. I would encourage you to sit just to sit, walk just to walk, eat just to eat, and allow the benefits to reveal themselves to you. Listen, I was actively suicidal. I didn't see the point in going on any longer. And I tell you, this practice, along with the abstinence from intoxicants, has helped me to save my life. And it was doing it just to do it. Questions?
Hello.
So I want to ask you like the role of compassion in your teaching. I'm curious about how does it work.
It's interesting. You're looking at the screen?
Hi there.
Oh, there you are.
This also works because it's projected on the wall.
Oh, okay. I see.
Can you guys see us, see them?
Yes.
Right now, the way this young student looks at us, that's how we see each other.
Yes. As you look into the computer or whatever the Zoom is logged into.
Because we have a double screen. We have you guys on one side and the student on the other side. So
Oh yeah. Well, the one the current student's looking at now is the one where we see you face to face. Compassion. This is tricky. There are so many ideas about what compassion is. So if we attempt to get our life to conform to the ideas of it, then what we end up doing is creating more suffering. And what I experienced over time, I get the opportunity to speak publicly. And there was a period of time so I talk often about suffering, because that's the truth of life. First noble truth in Buddhist practice, there's suffering. Second noble truth, where there's a cause to suffering, are the causes of suffering. The third noble truth is where there is a cause, there's a cure, and the fourth noble truth is the cure. The causes of suffering are selfish desire and craving backed by ignorance. Now, someone would invariably, I always open up for questions. After I talk for about 40 minutes, I open it up for questions, and someone would invariably say, hey, you Buddhists are depressing. I don't want to be, suffering. You just talk about suffering. I want to be happy. What they don't realize is that's suffering. Because they're attempting to get their life to conform to some idea of happiness, which is not really the truth of happiness. The truth of happiness, as in compassion, as in a lot of these notions, is revealed to us when we cultivate a disciplined practice that helps us to become more still. That's rooted in breath awareness, and it's not just sitting on a cushion. And we bring that into everything we do, like right now. This is a form of meditation practice. So compassion, yes, compassion is a very crucial element and very absent in contemporary society. However, the ideas of compassion and attempting to impose those on situations create more suffering. Anything else?
Yeah, that's all for my questions.
All right,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Isn't there one school, I don't want to say school of meditation that focuses on, like the bodhicitta or something it's called, that focuses on compassion?
I mean, there are different schools within the larger umbrella of Buddhist practice, and some of these schools focus on different things. So, in fact, there may be, and it is important to cultivate compassion. However, we cultivate compassion by letting go of our ideas of it, so that it can actually show itself to us. Because compassion will not have the same manifestation from event to event, to encounter. So to be available to the present moment, so that in any given moment, the compassionate response to what's going on can be shown to us. Question. Here comes one from the way back.
Hi.
Hello.
My question is, how did your military experience influence on your the understanding of and approach to Buddhism?
Could you say this again? How is your
our experience?
Military. Yeah.
Measure.
meritorious?
Yeah.
Yeah, meritus.
No, military.
Oh, military. Ah, okay.
Yeah, finish your question, man.
Like how did your like military experience influence on your like understanding of like Buddhism?
How did it influence your understanding of Buddhism?
My military experience, particularly in war, ripped away all of the ideas that I ever had about how life was supposed to be. I did not know, when returning home from war, I did not know. Regular life, as it was happening around me, did not make any sense. I just didn't see the point in it. I saw life, I saw the truth of suffering. I experienced it. I didn't just see it, I experienced the very heart of suffering. And I didn't have the tools to learn how to live with that or how to put myself in a position so that some sort of transformation could take place. What I discovered, and this was revealed to me through Buddhist practice, was that what I once perceived as my greatest liability is in fact a great asset, because I can openly share with people the very truth of war, violence, and suffering. Now, whether people hear that or not, or experience that or not, I have no control over. But I do have an obligation, with the awareness that I have, to really share that truth out loud and let people know that we are not hopelessly locked in a perpetual cycle of suffering. That can be changed if we're willing to live differently. It extends to that, the question that was asked about some eat meat, some don't eat meat. For me, it extends right to that, not supporting institutions of violence, overt institutions of violence. That's why I don't eat meat, fish, or poultry. That's why I don't support the dairy industry. It's a killing industry. And I came away from the war with a sensitivity that I didn't know what to do with. I also support a lot of people, a number of men and women who are currently in the military. Many of them have had several deployments. They've been several times to areas of conflict. I've often said to them that really the world that they live in is really very small. It seems quite big to them, but then at a certain point, if they survive, if they're not killed, then that military experience is going to end, and they're going to move into another realm. They're going to understand at that point how big the world really is. An example of this for me is it still happens to me sometimes. I walk into a grocery store. I want to get a box of grape nuts. I walk into the aisle where there's like 200 kinds of cereal, and it's just overwhelming to me. I don't know what to do. It's like I just sort of shut down. I don't experience any thoughts, or I just shut down. It's like too much input for me. So I have to leave. I have to walk out. Life can be like that for me. It can appear quite hopeless, or I feel sometimes quite helpless in the midst of it all. And still, by being very disciplined and committed with this spiritual path that Zen practice offers me, it gives me the opportunity. It's like a sea anchor, if you know what that is. So like a life raft has this thing that hangs underneath it that fills up with water that helps keep it stable, so it doesn't tip over things. They call it a sea anchor. So this practice is a sea anchor for me. It helps me to stay steady with all of the the fears and doubts and the joy and the happiness and everything that comes at me. It helps me to stay steady in the midst of that, not rejecting it, not allowing it to dictate how I act, to just be present for all of that experience. The military is an incredible piece of that for me. People have asked me if I had to do it all over again, would I go into the military? Would I volunteer to go to war? And I said, it's a pointless question. I don't have that chance. So I did join the military. I have been in war, and I've done things that are very painful for me to remember, but they're important for me to be present to, and to understand that, and to have the commitment to not do those things again in thought, speech, or action. Anything else?
It's not correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Buddhist practice then has helped you to, I don't know, not just necessarily, but to rejoin the living.
Well, I don't know if I would categorize it like that, Camilo. I would say, first and most importantly, my commitment to not take intoxicants. That allows me to be more present to my own life. That allows me to be present to all that Buddhist practice has to offer me, which is not dependent on what I think, say, or believe. It's all dependent on what I do, how I live my life. Rejoin, I don't know if I would say that it helps me to navigate through the storm of society and culture, because it is often like that for me. I still don't fit. I'm still not much of I'm not a conformist. It doesn't make sense to me. I have an opportunity. I experience the world in the ways in which I experience it, and this disciplined practice that's been passed on to me helps me to do that in a way that doesn't land me in too much trouble anymore. Yeah.
I would also say that Buddhist practice has helped me to get to know myself. Before practice, I was very unsure about who I am, what I really believe, what I'm really interested in. And through this time of stillness and being with myself, I learned more about who I am. I gained some more awareness, and I also learned to accept. Now, accept not in the sense that there's nothing I can do, it is what it is, who cares? More in the sense of I accept this is how it is right now, what do I want to do next? And to know that I am responsible for my life, and if I do things differently, I get different results. So Buddhist practice has empowered me a lot to take some risks, also be okay with being more okay with making mistakes is still something I don't like very much, but it does happen. And even so, Buddhist practice emphasizes that there is no separate, independent self. I learned to feel connected. I learned to feel connected with life, with other beings, with other items, and ultimately that is it's a big treasure.
Thank you.
Questions? Oh, here comes one. Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
My parents, they are also, they practice Buddhism. And then, so I learned about your background being a soldier in the war. And then I also believe that doing Buddhism practice can really help you to forget all the trauma or all the guilt or the all the past bad memory. So my question is, how do you see the relationship between like self-forgiveness
and then the forgiveness with like other people.
Forgiveness is a word that I don't really carry around in my lexicon. Forgiveness, for me, creates a separation, because there is the person who forgives and there's the person who is forgiven. Also, forgiveness for me is highly intellectual. What's more important to me is understanding, acceptance, and action. So for me, it's not about forgetting, but it's about learning how to live. I don't want to forget. Because those who forget are doomed to repeat. And so I wanted to learn how to live at peace with, I wanted to wake up to the roots of suffering that sort of dictated the choices that I made that led me to do the things that I did. I wanted to wake up to this interconnected reality that manifests itself through my birth, that interconnected reality that manifests itself through my actions. And so I wanted to understand more deeply the roots of war, violence, and suffering in me, because I understand that my decisions to join the military, my decisions to volunteer to go to war, were not independent. What I do with the consequences of my actions, though, is my responsibility. So I want to learn. I don't want to forget, because I don't want to repeat. Because as this is, that becomes. The next becomes. So for me, it's not about forgiveness, forgiving myself. I've done things that are simply they're just unforgivable. However, through understanding, acceptance, and action, then I don't continue to repeat those. I don't continue to repeat that suffering. I don't continue to infect others around me with that suffering. And so that's one of the gifts that Zen practice, Zen Buddhist practice, has enabled me to acquire.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. And I have another really quick question.
Ask me as many questions as you want.
Okay. How do you feel about life releasing? Because from how I feel my parents, a lot of things they do other than meditation and then learn more about like reading Buddhist lecture is they do life releasing. On a specific day in a year, they buy a lot of like fish or, those things, and then they go life releasing.
They go.
They release fish or birds or,
Yeah.
Chinese.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something endemic to Chinese culture. I learned about this through some of the Chinese monasteries that I had visited and spent time in. This is not something that I do. I also know that in the lineage I'm ordained, which is Japanese in its origins, they also have some of these rituals that they do at certain times. They're endemic to their culture. They're not part of my culture. So what I'm looking for is what is important for me within the context of the reality that I am born in the United States. And that this society and culture is endemic to me. I admire some of these things I repeat. Some of these, but I don't want to get into the business of capturing another person's culture and wrapping myself up in that and trying to look all holy and special and unique and different. It's a way of avoiding the truth of who I am and where I live and what I do. I know in the one monastery I lived at and studied at, which was also Asian, they had these celebrations where they would release a lot of birds. And I had mixed feelings about that, but it's something that was important to them. It was something endemic to their culture. And so I had an opportunity to learn from these experiences.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for the questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The whole notion of forgiveness, I almost find insulting in a way, because it's, look, we did what we did, And I don't know who the heck would be around that I want to forgive me. If anything, I blame a lot of people for what we did and what we became. And that, I know I got to work on that. So I have anger, and so I don't seek anyone's forgiveness. They should be asking our forgiveness, I think, for what they caused in our lives to deal with. But I was curious. I don't know. I want to give you a chance to respond to that if you like. But you said before that you feel that you have an obligation to, I don't know, help others, but to work with others to deal with what they are dealing with. Do you think that's a responsibility due to your Buddhist practice, or is that a responsibility due to your experiences in war, or both?
I would say that's grown out of the fact that I didn't get that. There was really no one. When I came back from the war, there was no one. If people were just telling me, look, you're home, forget about it, get on with your life, it's all done. And it wasn't true, it was a lie. It wasn't done. I couldn't get on, I was unable to get on with my life because their life didn't make any sense. I just, it's something that I can do, and it's something that makes sense to do, and I mean, I've been doing this before Buddhist practice. However, Buddhist practice gave me a more substantive container. It helped me to make more sense out of my own experience, and therefore I could offer that experience to others. It's not dogmatic. There's these things you can do, and if you do them, they'll support you, and if you don't do them, then good luck to you. Forgiveness, yes. I've had people walk up to me after a public talk, look at me in the face and tell me that they would never forgive me. And I go, I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. You know, I don't need your forgiveness, but I tell you, I don't ever want to forget. Yeah. The things that I have done with it, I'm not a good or bad person because of what I've done. I'm responsible. And so what to do with that responsibility. And one of the things that I do with that responsibility is to be present for those who I can be present for, and let them know that they're not alone, and that they can learn to live at peace with this unpeacefulness.
And you do it well.
Thank you. As do you.
Thank you.
Question?
Just quickly, I also want to say that, I mean, I don't have the military background, but this topic of serving others is interesting. I think it also puts in question, or it's good to look at what is selfless, what is selfish. And my experience has rather been that I have to learn to take care of myself. There has to be self first. But then when you are in a good relationship with yourself and you have resources, then it's also about sharing that with others. And feeling more connected with others, it's almost like a natural outgrowth out of your spiritual practice, that you then also want to be connected with others. You hear when they are in need, and you want to, if they are interested, then you extend yourself, your time, your energy, your resources. It becomes a natural, like you don't even have to do like, I am a Buddhist practitioner, therefore I need to support others. It's more, it comes along with the way. You know?
It just makes sense.
Yeah.
Question? Here we go.
Hi.
Hello.
I was wondering.
Wait, slow down.
Sorry. Sorry if I speak too fast.
Well, if you do, I'll just politely ask you to slow down.
Okay. So I was wondering about something because, as you mentioned, Buddhism is a lot about being present in the moment and like avoiding narcotics. So
because that negates that and that detaches you from reality. So I was wondering what your stance is regarding to listening to music, because personally I do it sometimes to like detach myself and like get a break, and I enjoy it. So I was wondering if listening to music is something you guys indulge in, and if you see it the same way and therefore avoid it.
No, I actually don't avoid it. My relationship to music has changed over time. I'm in another incarnation in this lifetime. I don't know about this past life thing, but in this lifetime I've had several incarnations. And one of those incarnations was as a musician. So I did play, I did write, I sing, I compose, and I had some moderate material success at that. Nothing great. I don't reject music. I will say one of the issues that I carry with me from the war is a disturbed sleep pattern. So I haven't slept more than 2 hours consecutively in any night since '67. It just works like that. It used to be a terrible thing for me because I thought I was supposed to sleep differently, and then in the midst of not taking intoxicants and engaged deeply in Buddhist practice, suddenly I had the awareness that, dude, you just sleep like this. This is your sleep pattern. There was this moment of acceptance, and it stopped becoming a problem. Sometimes in the midst of one of those disturbed sleep moments, if I'm incredibly anxious or I don't quite know what to do, laying in bed doesn't work for me, there's different forms of meditation practice that I can engage with. Listening to music meditation is one. Email meditation is another. Netflix or Prime meditation is another. Vacuuming the floor meditation is another. I don't do that so much at 3 o'clock in the morning because I don't want to disturb Kenshin. But so there are other ways to do a thing in a concentrated way. I don't use music. I used to use as a distraction, like you mentioned. I don't use it that way, but I do value it. And I like music. I just really like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because it hints at that everything can become an intoxicant, even meditation, like sitting meditation. And I learned that what I'm looking out for is that I don't use what I'm doing to prevent my life, to avoid my life, or like there's no, like I'm not paying attention to my responsibilities. I'm like, when it gets pathological, meaning it really has very negative consequences because I'm overdoing it, I'm hiding out, but otherwise I also enjoy moments where music that I like just carries me someplace else, and I just make an effort to do that as consciously as possible. But I stop, like when I'm driving the car, I don't turn on the radio. It bothers me, Yes. I enjoy stillness more than I did in the past. So have quietness or sometimes Anshin and I, might sit together and we not even talk. Like it just can be there. So stillness and silence has gained more of a quality, and at the same time it's not about being rigid. Like, yeah, I do sometimes watch Netflix just to end the day on a non-thinking wavelength, So, good point.
Anything else, Nora? Anything else?
I did have another question, but I forgot it. So
okay.
You remember this.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
One of the most difficult experiences I had with you all at the retreat was being silent. Being silent for me, as a philosopher, being silent for me is very, very difficult. I immediately, as you know from all years, but I like to engage in dialogue, and just being with yourself, I find very, very difficult. but very rewarding.
In the beginning, I also found it extremely difficult. And there are still moments today, and I've been quite public about this. There are still moments today where I hate myself because of how my life manifested itself up into a certain point. But I don't have to run away from that anymore. It comes into existence and it passes away. It's important information for me so that I don't continue to repeat those cycles of suffering and continue to feed those demons that led me to the point of really disliking myself. So from not being able to have a moment that was not occupied with some kind of activity or distraction to really just appreciating silence. And for me, it's pretty amazing for me, but I love it. I really do like it. Any other questions?
Hello.
Hey, hello.
My background is in Catholicism.
Yes.
And I know that is a very male-oriented religion, and it's designed really on a patriarchy. And I wanted to ask if you have experienced or noticed the treatment of women in a way that is oppressive, or it might just be a little different as you're in your time as Buddhist.
Yes, I have a female assistant. And in certain circles, I've been told that I can't really be a Buddhist because I have a female assistant. In certain schools of Buddhist thought, or certain schools of Buddhist thought, and this is not attributed to the historical figure Shakyamuni himself, but the way it's manifested in certain cultures and in certain lineages. They will say that if you are born a woman, you cannot become enlightened. Your only hope is to polish your practice so that in the next life you can be born as a man, because only men can become enlightened. I do not ascribe to that, but it is a truth that exists within the reality of Buddhist practice. It's not the totality of Buddhist practice. I would say that within the lineage that grows out of me, I would say that men and women have this. They don't have this. They have the same opportunities, but they're not actually the same because in essence we are different. Although we are connected, we are interconnected, and I'm not you. The physical sense of us brings different things to the world, brings different things to our experience. So I want to celebrate those differences, at the same time present the opportunities that each person. I want to offer opportunities to each person based on what they present, regardless of gender. And there are multiple genders now. They used to define monastics as a third gender. But I will say, being born male in this society and culture, I was conditioned to see women in a particular way. I was conditioned to be sexist. I was conditioned to see women as inferior. I was conditioned to see women to objectify women. I was conditioned to see women to have a small neurospecific place.
What culture is that, Anshin?
That's the one we all grew up in.
Oh, okay.
As being white male in this country, and so. It's been important for me to wake up to how I've been conditioned in that way and not surrender to that, but to allow people like yourself to allow Kenshin, to allow other women to educate me.
I would also say that there is, as a society, we are still growing out of that, that I often still feel women's voices are not as much heard as male voices. Like, for instance, there are some Buddhist magazines. I mean, magazines that are contributing particularly to Buddhist thought, and a lot of those articles sometimes just feels like like male voices are favored, more looked for, like what, will he contribute something? What is his, opinion? And the one time I really clearly experienced discrimination of women in practice was actually when I traveled to Asia. And in the country where I was hosted, we were hosted at a monastery, and initially, because they weren't aware that I'm female, they said, "Oh, we need to get you to the women's monastery." And Anshin insisted that I stay because I'm assisting him, but it was a bit of an uproar and complicated. However, I did learn that the women's monastery purely existed to support the male monastery. So they were doing the cooking and cleaning. And just the other day I thought, I take more away from their practice than the men who then are leading the ceremony or the service or who are giving the speech, because they are manifesting Buddhist practice. And so I found that I was very disappointed to see women, Buddhist nuns, being reduced to this serving position in the sense of householding. But it was a good lesson to know that in the US, I find there's a strong movement to have women manifest the same vows, have the same possibilities to teach, to lead centers, to travel, to be fully recognized. So it did make me thankful for that movement here in the US.
And as it stands now, Kenshin is my successor. So when I die, it all passes to her. Like that.
I have a friend who speaks to this class as well sometimes, and Chudman, and she is a nun in the Tibetan tradition, and she studies in India, and she's there now, and she always talks about their lessons. She's very satisfied with how they're taught, and very involved in debate and dialogue, and she loves all that, but she still feels that she's not allowed to go to the monastery. She has to stay in the nunnery or something. And during the pandemic, she was visiting the monastery for maybe to clean it, I don't know, and she was stuck there because of the confinement, and she was put into this little room that she had to live in for weeks at a time. She was very upset over that, and she complained a lot about patriarchy, even in the Buddhist tradition.
Well, it exists.
Mm-hmm. It does.
It does.
Thank you.
So we have to move to the next commitment, Camilo. But what I will do before we do that, is there any last question that someone would like to present?
One more?
No.
We do 10 breaths. You give a short instruction on sitting.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is to move out of this, or to transition out of this, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to give instructions on sitting meditation, and then we'll sit together for 10 cycles of breath. A cycle of breath is an in-breath followed by an out-breath. Now, as I mentioned before, meditation cannot be taught. Now that you're all sitting in chairs, it doesn't matter whether you sit on a chair or meditation cushion. It's irrelevant. What is important is to first cultivate a relationship with body and space. So we want to establish a solid base of support. That we're all sitting in chairs. The solid base of support will consist of three elements: our bottom and our feet. We want our feet flat on the floor. Help facilitate that, it's good to sit a bit forward. I don't know if those desks separate from your chairs or not. So we sit just a bit forward. Then you notice your body in space. Sit with the hips slightly forward, the chin in a bit. Then notice that your ears are aligned with your shoulder, your nose aligned with the navel. We sit with our eyes mostly closed, not completely closed. We pay attention that when sitting, our head is not leaning to the left or to the right, neither forward nor backward. We notice that our back is straight, not rigid, but straight, the natural curvature of the spine. Hands. In this lineage, we sit with the back of the left hand into the palm of the right. We rest that on our thighs with our thumb tips nearly touching. Nearly touching because when we become distracted from the essential point, which is one breath followed by one breath, our thumbs will communicate that to us. They'll touch or they'll in some other way move. When breathing, we breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. When breathing in, we don't follow the breath into the body. We rather pay attention to the precise point where the breath enters the body. However, we do breathe into the abdomen. Aware of our body in space, it's not necessary to follow the breath into the body to know we're breathing into the abdomen because our stomach will expand. So if your chest is expanding, your shoulders are rising, then I need you to cultivate that breath, to really concentrate, to bring that breath into your abdomen. When breathing out, we notice the abdomen contract. We don't follow the breath out of the body, but rather pay attention to the precise point where the breath leaves the body. We begin the period of sitting. This sitting with Kenshin will wake up the bell that you've heard and help it to sing 3 times. First song of the bell, our posture becomes immobile, so don't move, except for the expansion and contraction of the abdomen. And let the second and third songs of the bell bring you into a steady, active relation with your breath. When we transition from 10 cycles of breath to another form of meditation, which will be short, Kenshin will wake up the bell, help it to sing twice. First song of the bell, bring your attention back to the space. Second song of the bell, if you need to move at that point, feel free to move. An exercise for you. First thing when you get up in the morning, make your bed like you never slept in it, and then sit. Start with 10 cycles of breath, and then move yourself into sitting for 5 minutes. Do that the first thing in the morning and the last thing before you go to bed. Doesn't cost anything. It's free. And if you do it just to do it, you will be amazed in time what begins to happen as a result of that. If you just do it. Also, I want to do a recitation, a short recitation. And in this recitation, I use these clappers. So if you have a startled reaction, you'll know they're coming and I won't whack them too hard. This is called the transition gata. Let me respectfully remind you, life and death are of supreme importance. Time passes swiftly by, and opportunity is lost. Each of us must strive to awaken. Awaken. Take heed. Do not squander this life. Also, in closing, I have had the privilege of having 2 books published. If you're interested in those, I think Camilo has Kenshin's email address. And you can ask Camilo to pass that information on or give you Kenshin's email address. Also, we offer formal meditation sessions online on Thursdays and Saturdays. You're welcome to attend. They're via Zoom. We do a period of silent sitting followed by some recitations. If you have more interest, you're welcome to join us. If you want that dial-up information, let Camilo know. He'll contact us and we'll give it to him. He can pass it to you. I want to say goodbye to all of you and really thank you for the questions that you ask and for being present and accepting and inviting for Kenshin and I. I also want to say that that you who are attending this class have a rare privilege to have Camilo as an instructor. He's one of the most thoughtful, insightful people around the real cost of war that I have met. Period. So Camilo, thank you so much again for this opportunity. Yes?
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. We learned a lot.
You're welcome. Give you a bow, and for the whole class, I'm offering a big internet hug.
Yes.
Big hug to all of you. Great big hug.
And if you still have questions, you can reach us. So thank you really for having broad questions. It was a really interesting time to spend together.
Yeah, and if you have questions, you can send them in. We'll respond to them. We can either respond to them via email or we can set up a private meeting via
Zoom or FaceTime.
Yeah, Zoom, FaceTime, WhatsApp chat, whatever. Oh.
Be well. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. See you soon.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to this episode on Zalto Live. If you would like additional information, please look at the show notes or visit zalto.org. That's ZALTHO.org. Our work is made possible solely through donations, so please consider making a tax-deductible gift on our website. We wish you well and thank you.